In the summer of 2023, Chelsea signed Nicolas Jackson from Villareal for £32 million. Considering he signed a contract until 2031, everyone thought Chelsea had just got their striker for the next 5 years or so. But just 2 years later, the club is already offloading him. This is a player who averages 1 goal involvement every other game and even scored in a final for Chelsea. Why then are they moving him on so quickly despite the player wanting to stay? Obviously, Jackson quickly developed a reputation for poor finishing and missing chances while at Chelsea, but that's actually not the real reason the club wants him out right now. Want to find out what the actual reason is? Come along with us. This is why Chelsea are getting rid of Nicolas Jackson. The first thing we'll say is that Nicolas Jackson was trained as a winger. He started out his career playing on the flanks and only started playing solely as a centre-forward the season before Chelsea bought him. He went on an insane run where he scored 9 goals in the last 8 games of the 2022-23 La Liga season for Villareal, and Chelsea felt that that was enough to sign him and appoint him to lead the attack. Well, he moved to the Premier League as a 22-year-old without much experience as a striker, so obviously he struggled. But to be fair, virtually the whole Chelsea team struggled that season, so Jackson finishing with 14 Premier League goals in that campaign without a single penalty was definitely an amazing start to life in England. The icing on the cake was that he scored 4 goals against Spurs that season, and as you know, any Chelsea player who scores against Spurs tends to be an instant hero. Anyway, there was a change of coach in 2023 and Nicolas Jackson's numbers dropped, no thanks to the injuries he suffered. But altogether, the team got better and were back to winning trophies, so it was all good. At the end of the regular season, Chelsea had won the Conference League and secured qualification for the Champions League by finishing 4th on the Premier League table, so all was well. The club made an early signing of Liam Delap from relegated Ipswich, but the plan was never for the Englishman to displace Jackson. It was just to give the Senegalese some competition and to have enough depth in that position. You see, in the 2024-25 season, Jackson was practically Chelsea's only centre-forward, and when he got injured, they found themselves in a real mess, having to use Neto, Palmer and Tyreek George as 9s. They didn't want a repeat of that this season, which was why they completed the signing of Delap as early as possible. So, going into the Club World Cup, Jackson was still very much a part of Enzo Maresca's plans. He started the first game of the tournament, but unfortunately, in the second game, he picked up a red card. That right there was the beginning of his woes. Well, not exactly the beginning, because he had also received a silly red card against Newcastle in the Premier League, which cost Chelsea the game. We'll talk about Jackson's woes in detail in a second, but if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, go do that right away, so you never miss out on our amazing content. Now, one thing nobody wants is a striker who's always getting himself suspended because of silly bookings, but that right there is what Jackson seems to have made his trademark. He got 10 yellow cards in his first Premier League season, the most of any attacker that season. In fact, he was in the top 10 for most yellow cards in the whole league. As a striker, that's just crazy. But you know what was even crazier? He picked up his first 5 yellow cards in the opening 6 games of that campaign and had to miss a game due to suspension. Then last season, he got 7 yellow cards and a red in the Premier League, then also went ahead to get a red at the Club World Cup. And what makes all this worse is that, if you look closely, most of the yellow cards are for really silly things like dissent and needless fouls. It has gotten fans really frustrated, but it wasn't even the bookings that changed everything for him. At the time he got sent off at the Club World Cup, the plan was still to go into the 2025-26 season with him and Delap as the striking options. But then, Chelsea signed Joao Pedro during the tournament, and that was the signing that doomed Nicolas Jackson. You see, Joao Pedro was brought in to be a utility player who would cover so many positions. He can play as a centre-forward, a winger and a 10, so it was expected that he would just fill so many holes. In fact, he primarily was signed to help manage Palmer's minutes, but with Jackson unavailable, he came on to play 9 against Palmeiras at the Club World Cup, and everything changed. His cameo against Palmeiras was so good that he earned a start against Fluminense in the semi-final of the Club World Cup. In that game against his old club, the Brazilian scored 2 goals to send Chelsea to the final. Then in the final against PSG, playing as a centre-forward once again, he scored yet again. Apart from the goal he scored, he also made a very brilliant run which helped Palmer score the second goal. At that point, the picture became clear both for the management and fans of the club. Joao Pedro is the new striker. He may not have been brought in for that position, but but he has gone on to make it his own. What that meant was that Nicolas Jackson immediately became surplus to requirements. Jackson and Pedro have very similar profiles. The way they like to get back and try to generate football, make runs, link up with the players behind and around them. All of that, so similar. The problem though is that Joao Pedro does all of that to a greater degree than Jackson. On top of that, the Brazilian is a better finisher, better dribbler, and a better creator. And this is not just us talking here, the numbers back it up. Last season, Jackson averaged 16 attempted passes and 1.5 progressive passes per 90. Joao Pedro, meanwhile, averaged 30.4 attempted passes and 3.5 progressive passes per 90. That's quite a gap. Pedro is also the better ball carrier and dribbler. He averaged 1.33 successful take-ons and 2.9 progressive carries per 90, which trumped Jackson's 0.75 successful take-ons and 1.96 progressive carries per 90 last season. Even when it comes to making intelligent runs, Joao Pedro is much better. Jackson received 5.26 progressive passes per 90 last season, while Pedro received 6.08 progressive passes per 90. And that's not even all. Joao Pedro is better at tracking back and helping out the defense, while not getting booked as much as Jackson. So keeping the Senegalese forward really seems redundant now that they have Joao Pedro on the team. Liam Delap is a completely different profile, so there'll always be room for him depending on what the coach is going for tactically. When it comes to playing with their back to goal, running the channels, holding up play, bullying defenders, winning duels, and generally doing the job of a traditional striker, Delap is your man. When it comes to link-up play, taking on players, carrying the ball, interchanging with other attackers, and just generally generating football, Joao Pedro is your man. So Jackson just has to leave. If he remains at the club, his minutes will be so limited because there are two players now above him in the pecking order. So leaving Chelsea this summer definitely benefits him and his career as well. But do you think Chelsea will miss Nicolas Jackson at some point in the season? Will they regret getting rid of him, or was that just the best solution for all parties? Tell us what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notifications so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye.
You've asked for it and we've finally delivered. Relive the glory days with the most iconic designs in football history. Whether you're a fan of classic club colours or legendary international strips, we've got something to ignite your nostalgia. Perfect for match days, casual wear, or adding to your collection. Shop the new retro range now at goal90.shop. Massive discounts await.